Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the Lecmall digital MP4 player. Compared to the same version produced by Steels, I think this one is slightly better because it isn't a carbon copy of the iPod Nano 3rd generation. For instance, on the bottom you'll see it uses a mini USB standard port for charging and syncing with a computer, Mac or PC, as opposed to using the 30-pin connector that was used by Apple. So this one at least has its own flair and its own design going on, and it's not completely a replica. It also has a micro SD card slot, which allows you to expand the built-in memory. That's a nice feature to have. It's not completely self-contained and self-sealed. So this version here sells on Amazon for about $35. It isn't too expensive. The back also features a metal surface, which is extremely shiny, attracts a lot of fingerprints and also dust, just like on the original iPod. I think it looks pretty classy and feels nice in the hand as well. With that being said, this version comes with 32 gigs of built-in flash storage, but the flash storage is actually stored on the memory card. It's a 32 gig card that you get as part of the purchase. So if you take that out and you swap it out with a 64 gig, unfortunately there isn't 32 gigs already on board. So that's something to quickly take note of. Otherwise, the bottom also features a 3.5mm headphone jack and a power on-off switch. The front features a 1.8-inch TFT LCD display. As you can see here, they went with their own custom user interface as opposed to imitating the iPod Nano. So that is also nice to see. We'd like to see a bit of originality here and there. The scroll wheel here, again, it uses just four keys. The center key actually doesn't do much. It actually isn't a OK key, so it takes a little bit of getting used to. It also isn't a capacitive sensor, so you can't scroll your way around. You have to actually tap on the individual buttons. Otherwise, on the very top there is a battery status icon. Charging this takes roughly 2 hours to complete, and afterwards it should last you for about 2 to 3 weeks before you need to recharge it again with sporadic usage in between. So as you can see here, the menu here just goes left and right, and it matches up with the left and right keys down below, so everything is pretty intuitive and easy to navigate. There's a basic music player on board, which supports popular files like MP3, WMA, and you can see that sometimes foreign text does not show up properly, but at least you have access to things like equalizers on the top, the volume, it gets pretty loud, audio quality is crisp, you can select things like looping, the screen times out after a few seconds to save on the battery. It also shows the file compression of format, the size, and also the amount of time remaining. I will say though that this particular MP4 player doesn't have cover art support, so that's something to quickly take into consideration, but otherwise it has pretty good audio performance. Next, there's a digital video player on board, hence the MP4 naming, but it only supports quite limited file formats. The actual built-in video that you see here isn't the most crisp looking in the world, and also uses its own proprietary kind of format that you have to convert your videos into if you have MP4 videos, for instance. So it's not the most easy thing in the world, especially since there isn't a driver included as part of the package. You get just a micro USB cable, you get a pair of headphones that sound okay, they're not too terrible, an instruction manual, and that's it. So for conversion, you have to kind of Google it and search it up yourself. As you can see, it has a decent video playback experience. Frame rates are nice. The screen is decently bright, but viewing angles aren't great. Some other features on this include a digital voice recorder. It uses a microphone located on the very back of the unit to capture some sound clips, so you can use it for some quick voice memos, maybe a to-do list, maybe at some meetings, or even if you want to do a bit of singing. However, I will say that the microphone on here isn't the best in the world, and the quality could be better. It isn't noise canceling, so it does pick up quite a bit of ambient background noise, such as if you move the actual MP4 player around too fast, the wind catches in the mic and it creates this distortion, so there isn't really a filter to protect it, so that's something to quickly note. FM radio also uses the antenna from a inserted 3.5mm headphone jack. It allows you to play back a decent amount of channels, at least here in the Seattle region when we tested it. You can also tap on the skip track controls and hold on it for a few seconds to automatically scan through the strongest channels in terms of reception. Otherwise, it's a decent radio, but it's not an HD radio or anything like that. There's also a basic photo viewer on board, so you can use it to look at some JPEG images, use it as a digital photo frame of sorts, or a photo keychain. You can see here that it also shows. Once again, we have the display, which is fairly bright, but if you tilt it, you can see how colors do get washed out and inverted quite easily. Something to quickly note, and probably an area where the manufacturer was able to save on the cost. System settings allows you to go through and do things like the LCD, when it times out, languages that you can go through, memory information, system time and date, the firmware, so on and so forth. So tapping on menu for a few seconds, that takes us back out once more. There's a basic text reader. We like how on this version it isn't advertised as a ebook reader because that's a bit misleading. It shows off text files just fine, but it's basically rows and rows of text. Formatting is a little weak. Same thing with can be said about paragraphs and page breaks. They don't really show up, so you have to do a lot of scrolling up and down to get through not even too much text. So it's not as great as an ebook reader, of course, just because the screen is so limited, but it will work if you want to store some addresses, some contacts, some phone numbers. It does the trick for that. And that's all. There are no preloaded games that you get on this particular version of the MP4 player, unlike some other generic builds we've seen in the past. So that's an extra that isn't available here. However, overall, we do really like the Lecmall version of the digital MP4 player because despite kind of looking at like the 3rd generation iPod Nano, the interface here makes a lot more sense just because the button placement corresponds with the actual on-screen indicators. And we like the presence of an expansion micro SD card slot as well as the lanyard slot, and also a standard mini USB port for syncing information. Construction quality is good, the battery life is good, lasted us again 14 days without having to recharge it again, and overall the value here in terms of the price point is also quite fair. You can check out more details about this MP4 player in our full written review, but this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Review.